Hello, welcome to Hop Hammer again. I thought I'd do something a little bit different this time. I thought I would do a green stuff tutorial instead of a battle report. I'm hoping to do a few more tutorials. Only a basic one, so if you already know what you're doing with green stuff, you're not going to learn anything new. It's just basic stuff. So there's two different types of green stuff you can get from the Games Workshop. You can get the actual green stuff, which is like two types of clay sort of thing in the pack, and you can get liquid green stuff, which comes in like a paint pot like that. I've got two things that I want to do today. I've got a unit filler, but it's actually going to be my BSB for my vampire counts. It's going to be a Sleepy Hollow style Blood Knight leaping out of the tree, but I mean obviously he's on the wrong size base, so it's going to be at opponent's discretion sort of when I play people. Otherwise he'll just be a unit filler and I'll use my other BSB. And then I have a Goblin Wolf Rider, which I've used the Fenrisian Space Wolves, the new models, and your standard Goblin. I've already assembled him and done his base, except on every single one, I don't know if you can see that, there's like a little crack in the top of his head, which is just there where the head joins, and it's pretty annoying, but that'll be a job for liquid green stuff. This one, I've already green stuffed a little bit of it anyway, just at the back there, and I've green stuffed that there to hold it all together because glue wasn't really strong enough, so I just lapped over some green stuff. I also needed it to be higher up, this dip higher up in the middle, so that when I put the Blood Knight on it, he was more raised for coming out of the tree. But what I want to do is I just want to fill this hole in at the back there. It's not like, it doesn't need to look like a tree on the back, because I'm going to be putting foliage on it anyway, so it'll cover it up completely, but I'll try and make it reasonably neat, but it doesn't have to be. This is the tool that I use for doing the green stuff. It's just, I think, like a clay modelling tool. I don't think the camera's going to focus on that. Maybe if I put my hand there. Yeah, there we go. I think I got this just from an art shop, so they're really cheap. So basically, everything, you want the green stuff to be wet, so so I've got a little bit of water there. You only want it a bit wet, like just so that it doesn't stick to your fingers and stick to the tool and go all over the place. And if it's wet, it goes more where you want it to go. So it is quite light working with clay actually. If you keep the clay wet, then it just works better. So there's two different types of putty, and you mix them together, equal amounts, and then they go hard after being mixed together. So just grab a clump like that. I think it takes about 24 hours for it to set properly so that you can paint on it. I haven't done a lot with green stuff, but you can. I've seen other people's things, and there's a lot of nice things you can do. I mean, you could sculpt something out of it, like a new head for something, or a complete model really, if you really wanted to. I did some mushrooms for my goblin bases, which are in there, just mushroom heads, because I always mix way too much green stuff. Like, I've got this now to fill that hole, and I'll probably end up with loads left over, but I'll hopefully not. So just wet it a little bit, and then just knead it, mix it up, and just keep doing that for a while until it goes all one colour. It will go like a dark green, well, the same colour as that basically. It takes a couple of minutes to mix it all up. I think a lot of people worry about using stuff and using green stuff and doing conversions, and there's no need to worry. If you mess something up, you can always just pull it all off and start again. But I think people just panic a bit and think, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'll just play with my model straight out the box. But then there's nothing like a nice conversion to make your army look unique. So that's pretty well mixed now. So it's quite stiff to use, so I'm just warming it up a bit more. I've got warm water as well, which helps with that a little bit. So okay, so I'm flattening it out now. You get fingerprints in the actual green stuff. As I predicted, I've got way too much green stuff, which always seems to happen. And I even tried to scrimp on it that time. I even thought, oh, I'll use less than normal. Just always seems to happen. So yeah, so what I was saying about the fingerprints thing is, if you're going to use your fingers to knead it all, it's fairly unavoidable that you're going to get fingerprint marks on it. But you can file it down afterwards, before you paint it. Or if you were doing something and you wanted it very neat without the fingerprints on, you could just roll it out with something else, like a pen or something. So I'm just sticking that straight onto the back there to cover that hole up. It's actually not a lot to this at all. It's a complete doddle. So there you go. It looks really rough, not neat at all. And then the inside, there's no detail on there whatsoever. It just is literally filling the hole. So there's a bit of a gap there. You can see the light shining through it. So I'm gonna just stretch the green stuff using this tool, which I want wet so that it doesn't stick to the green stuff. So there we go. So that's stretched that over that hole a little bit. And then where I've stuck it to the back, and so I've got a ridge from the plastic to the green stuff, and I'm just gonna smooth that down so it's all one. I mean, because I'm gonna go over this with foliage and leaves and all that, I could actually just press it down with my finger, which is a lot easier. But because I want to show you, I'm just going to press the edges down with this, and you just sort of scrape it along. If it starts to pull the green stuff around, it's because your tool's dried out and it's sticking to the green stuff rather than just sculpting it. So get that how you want it. I mean, you could add a little bit of detail into this green stuff. Just with this tool, you could put some lines going through it, you know, just some scratches and stuff, just so it wasn't a completely smooth piece when you come to paint it. If you're not gonna put other textures over it, like leaves and things, then you would want to do that to make it look a little bit less boring, probably. And the more you use it, the more confident you come with it, and all of a sudden you'll be wanting to do loads of things and maybe sculpt a shield or whatever, or shoulder pads for your Space Marines or whatever. But so that's stuck on, and I've roughed up the edges. I've smoothed them down to the plastic and then roughed them a little bit so that it's quite hard to see. There we go, just like they've got a few stab marks in so that they can be sort of textured for the tree itself. So they'll blend in with the tree. A lot of the time you can just follow the model, like if there's a line coming down here, you could follow that line through the green stuff so that it looks less obvious that you've green stuffed it. But like I say, there's no point me really doing any more to that because I'm going to be covering it up with like a moss type flock all up the back, which is going to go up here too. So that's that hole filled in. That's what it looks like from the inside. You see all the bubbles on the inside of the tree. Well, normally you wouldn't see them because this tree bit would be closed, but as it happens they look alright. I'm going to leave them like that. So I don't need to do anything with them. I've got a little gap there at the top, so I'm going to fill that bit in. The green stuff that you've mixed will stiffen up if you don't use it quite quickly. Like in about an hour or two it'll probably be unusable. So although it takes, like I said, 24 hours to be completely set, in a couple of hours time you won't be able to mould anything with it again. It'll be pretty much useless. So if you do mix too much, don't chuck the green stuff away. Just make something that small that you think, oh, one day I might use that, like a little box, or you know, like I've made those mushroom heads there. Just little things. Or if you've got some models assembled that you need to green stuff, have them out and just have like a green stuff session rather than just doing one thing. So I've pushed that in there to cover that hole up. It looks quite messy on this one, but it wants to because trees aren't smooth. So that's that bit finished. So I'll leave that to dry now before I do anything else to it. I do have another branch that I want to add on there, but I can't find that. But that would have been quite good to green stuff on, actually. If I can find it. Nope. So that'll be... So I made a mistake myself that I should have found that, so I could have green stuffed it all together right now. But I might even put a banner on there or something. It seems it is the BSB draped through the trees. I'll just show you that one more time in case you haven't seen it like properly. Right, so the Wolf Rider, so he just wants a little bit of green stuff in that crack on the top of his head. So you could use this that you've mixed, which I actually would normally do because it's quite a big crack, but I'm going to use the liquid green stuff anyway because that's the point of this mini tutorial. So just get a reasonably old brush that you're not bothered about. That one will do. And then the green stuff. I don't know if this really needs shaking up or not. I mean, it's not a paint, so it doesn't really need mixing. But some of it like thickens up, and yeah, it is quite thick. So just wet your brush. The water on the brush will be enough probably to water down the green stuff, or you could put some in a mixing palette and add a bit of water to it if you wanted, but the consistency is pretty good anyway. It's already it's about right. And then just paint that in to the crack. So this, you do want to be quite neat with it. like, because it will show up quite badly on the model if you've got a ridge of green stuff on his forehead. Like, it is going to show up, but again, once it's dried properly, you can sand that down. So I put my come on, focus. Right, there we go. So there we go. I've painted that directly over the top of the crack, and I'll just neaten that up now. I mean, you want to be painting it into the crack anyway. Otherwise, when it dries, it'll all just sink into the crack, and it'll just be exactly the same. If the crack goes all the way through the model, like if it's a hollow inside, it's just going to sink all the way down through the crack, and then you're just going to have exactly the same problem. Then you'll have to do it again and again until it builds up. So that's pretty much it done. Then the excess around the top of the crack, around the sides of the crack, sorry, you could wait for it to, give it like, what, 20 minutes and then scrape it off, or while it's wet now you could take some of it off. So just to smoothen it out and make it not look like a great massive ridge on the top of his head. So you could wipe it off, anything will take it off, a bit of kitchen roll or something. I'm just using the tool because I've got some in the fur of the model, and I just want to pick that out because otherwise it'll ruin some of the detail. So that's the crack filled in on his head. You can just see the green line there of the green stuff. I actually really like these models. They're the best Wolf Rider models, I think, although it works out quite expensive if you're going to buy the wolves and the goblins, and it works out about 50 quid for 10. If you buy it from the Games Workshop, that is. So I finished putting that in, and it's already started to sink into the crack a little bit, so I'm just going to put a little bit more on. And then I'm not going to water this down now. I think it wants to stay thick. I think I watered it down too much before. Yeah, there we go. The liquid green stuff's really good on, like, when you look at the fine cast models that you can get. Generally, every single one you buy, there's a problem with. It's just unavoidable. Like these Blood Knights that I got, I mean, look at the state of the back of that armour. Probably can't see it. Just on the horse there. It's all rough and there's a massive line going down it. Like on his armour, on his neck there's a hole going all the way through the fine cast. So that's going to need filling in. This is going to need filing off. I think they're getting better the more they do, but at the moment every model needs green stuffing in some way or a lot of filing. So the liquid green stuff really speeds that up. Like you can assemble the model and then fill all the gaps in afterwards. And then the normal green stuff, when I would say that's more for converting really. But they're the two different types of green stuff. They're the simple processes that I use them for. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Like I say, you file it down when it's dried to make it smooth. Because when it dries, it pretty much dries like the plastic, and it works like the plastic too. Like when you file it, it looks the same as when you file the plastic. And then once you painted over it, that's it. No one will ever know it was there. And that's pretty much it. So now I just need to find something to make with this, which I'll just make 2 more mushroom heads. Before you know it, I'll have hundreds of them. Enough for one for every base. Right, cheers. Thanks for watching.